Football Weekly with James Richardson.
Today, Keegan in the toilet, Steve with his latte in the rain. Now another England manager gets a prestigious send-off as armband gate leads to Addio Fabio. The FA made it clear he had no backing, but isn't that what a Capello always means? Who's next? After brave jurors freed the Tottenham one, will Harry arrive? Will Spurs dig in their heels or reward him for his service by letting go in another of those gifts employers like giving him? We'll be discussing that, plus Africa Cup of Nations, Ivory Coast versus Forces of Destiny in the big final. There's Man United against Liverpool and more in a monster weekend of matches in the Premier League. We'll hear about those and your posts and tweets in Football Weekly Extra. Hello there, everybody, and welcome to a special commemorative edition of Football Weekly Extra with with Amy. Hey. Hello, and Barry.
Hello.
Hi, and John Ashdown.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Hi, worldwide TV audience. It is a big pod, this. What, by popular consent, was a great day for English football. They've lost a manager, don't have a captain either, but by Jiminy, they've got all the excuses they could ever need when it all goes tits up in June.
Correct.
Good. Shortest pod ever. All right, then. Let's go to our readers. Adam Boltwood says Fabio Capello becomes the second Italian to abandon a sinking ship in 2012. Yeah. Bongo24. That's got to be a TV channel, hasn't it? Well, does anyone else think Fabio Capello looks like Tommy Cooper? Straight to the point there. Formica Atomica counters with don't feel too bad for Postman Pat. Amy.
Yes.
Extraordinary day for England. Good news or bad news?
Well, most people seem to think it's good news, and I think it doesn't take too much of a jump of the imagination to see that Fabio Capello has in some ways been behaving like someone who's been trying to get the sack for a while, you could argue. And I think getting so close towards the end of his tenure anyway, it's possible that it wasn't really worth hanging on for the extra time and aggravation from his point of view. And if it's close enough to the end of his contract that probably the amount of the 3 million or so that he won't now get probably doesn't make that much difference to his life. But generally, looking at what people have written, hearing what people are talking about, there's a lot of jumping up and down for joy from an English point of view. Obviously, people think that whatever is coming is going to be a lot better than what's been. But you've got to take a view that the players are still the players, and how much difference any new manager makes. There's usually a short-term optimism that you often get with new managers, but you've got to look a bit more long-term, and England have got to try and make the right decision to presumably take through to the World Cup in Brazil. And if they do get Harry Redknapp, which is what is obviously being so well discussed at the moment, if they can get him in for this tournament, you'd almost say that's giving them him the experience to then take through to the next tournament. I mean, that's maybe being a little bit too unambitious. Well,
they'll be in administration by then if they just kidding, of course. John.
Well, I think England. I mean, I entirely agree with you. I mean, in terms of how much difference it'll make in terms of success at tournaments, is questionable. But I think what England should really sort of concern themselves with, in a way, or they sort of do concern themselves with, is the style in which you fail at tournaments. I mean, the World Cup 2010 was just an abysmal failure of ideas and imagination and personnel and selection and organisation. They were terrible in that tournament, and the way that they failed was worse than the fact that they did. If you see what I mean. And if you get Harry, and a certain amount of bonhomie and perhaps a bit of more stylish failure would be welcomed.
Barry.
Well, a lot of people have been sticking up for Capello, saying he's England's most successful manager because he amassed sort of more points per game than any other of his predecessors. But I think that is stretching it a lot, because his only tenure in a major international tournament was an absolute unbridled disaster. Now, it sort of depends how much of that was his fault or how much of that was the players. Personally, I think the players are largely to blame. A lot of them are complete egomaniacs. They don't get on. I mean, already you have assorted England players going on Twitter saying who they'd like to see succeed Capello, which I think, while they're perfectly entitled to their opinion, they should really know by now that it's probably a good idea to keep them to themselves. They're not in charge as much as they seem to think they are. Whether or not Harry takes over, and it seems very likely will, Spurs might dig their heels in, but it would be considered treachery if they didn't release him.
Is it really this likely that Harry will take over? He's enjoying an enormously successful run at Spurs, the best job of his career, really. And I know that the media seems to have come out saying, A, that it's a done deal, and B, that the whole country wants him, apart from one or two Spurs fans who'd like to keep him at White Hart Lane. But unfortunately, there's a press conference coming up at 12. Do you think it is that done a deal at this point, or is there any chance for Hodgson or indeed anyone who's not English?
Quite. I mean, I think it fundamentally really shouldn't be that done a deal, because this is an important decision to get right, and it's Harry Redknapp has lots of qualities we all know about. However, when it comes to actual top level experience in international football, it's quite limited. In terms of winning things, obviously he won the FA Cup with Portsmouth, well done, but over a 25 plus year career, that doesn't really have quite the clout of some of the other prospects that you could consider. And I think it's a pity when you get an overwhelming weight of opinion, people coming out immediately going, it's got to be English, it's got to be English. Well, it would be nice if it was English, but if it's not the right person for the job, then I think that's really short-sighted.
Well,
and
there
are
disagree.
people out there.
That's like saying if there's not a good English goalkeeper, we'll get a foreign one. I think the manager has to be from the same nation. But anyway.
But I mean, if you look at Hiddink, for example, or if you look at Mourinho, for example, they're two coaches who have probably more respect and affinity from within the English game than Capello ever had. But they also have vast, much more experience of winning and more experience of international matches in high-level environments. And if you want to put forward and imagine England being, I know this might happen in a World Cup semi-final or quarter-final against Brazil or Argentina or whoever in 4 years' time, is Harry Redknapp going to be the man for that situation? We really haven't got a clue. There's no evidence from his career so far to suggest that he would handle that situation better than a Mourinho or better than a Hiddink.
No, a lot of people are pointing to the trial and saying he managed to run the club successfully while being on trial for tax evasion, which shows that he can handle pressure and not let it affect his job.
I'm not talking about pressure, I'm talking about the footballing challenge.
Right.
Plus, there's the fact that, he's well known as not being a training ground manager. It's Joe Jordan that does a lot of coaching, and how that transfers to the national or international scene, where you need to get a set of players to gel very quickly, and you've only got limited time to do that on the training ground, would be interesting to see. Plus, he likes signing players, and you can't. International management is really restrictive in that sense. You can't just snap up a Louis Saha just before an international tournament because you fancy getting a bit of extra strike power in. How he's never, not for a long time, has he had to work on a restricted budget at a club. Which is essentially what you have to do at international level. So how he copes with that will be interesting as well.
I mean, in a 35-year managerial career, he's won one trophy, I think, the FA Cup with Portsmouth, who he left in a state of financial, to say disarray would be putting it mildly. Now, that's not necessarily his fault, but, he did buy all these players. I think he seems to have talked himself into the job, and it's no secret that most of the English press pack absolutely fawn over him. They would like to see him in the job because he's always good for a quote out the car window. He's nice to them. He's easy to get on with, whereas Capello didn't have that much time for them. And if he gets the job, it's pretty much guaranteed that within 2.5, 3 years, those same press or those same journalists who fawn all over him at the moment will be calling for his head. They'll be putting him in the front of tabloids with his head morphed into a turnip, so that's possibly something he might consider.
Possibly so. But is there no chance that, for example, Roy Hodgson or another might be in the frame here?
If Capello had left after the 2010 World Cup, it would have been Roy Hodgson because his star was highest at the time. It's just 2 years down the line, things have changed, and it is sort of entirely based on who's and on timing, essentially. Who's in the right place at the right time. It seems to be that it'll be Harry's if he wants it, which he probably will. I mean, I can't see Roy Hodgson getting it now. But you've got such a if you are going to insist on it being an English manager, you've got such a restrictive pool of people to choose from. There's only 5 English managers in the top flight, and one of those is Steve. Is Steve Keane even English?
No,
Exactly. So
there's
it's
only
4.
3.
4, isn't there?
3. There's
No.
Alan Pardew, Roy Hodgson, and indeed
Tony
Harry
Pulis,
Redknapp.
is he not English?
He's
Oh,
Welsh.
Welsh.
Is he
There you
really?
go, Welsh.
Well,
That's 3.
Alan Pardew has
Scratch that.
already ruled himself out of the job, prompting no end of other people who wouldn't have been considered to also rule themselves out of the job. Have you ruled yourself out of the
I
job?
haven't,
yet?
but I'm just thinking, should they, I joked about this before, should they just apologise and give it back to Sven?
No,
Okay. Curbs! He's not doing anything.
that's true. I mean, there has been talk as well that England could possibly install an interim manager either till the end of the season, so that Harry can focus on getting Spurs back into the into the Champions League, or until after the Euros. And Gareth Southgate's name was mentioned, Stuart Pearce, which I don't think would be a very good call considering the mess he's made of the under-21s. And it's difficult to see anyone other than Harry Redknapp getting it. But Rob Smythe did make the point to me this morning, when Terry Venables was appointed, he was actually 25-1 in the list of candidates.
Interesting. Very interesting.
So it's certainly not unprecedented for a real outsider to get plucked from obscurity.
No, indeed.
I mean, obviously, any new manager coming in on the whole comes in to pick up some kind of mess from their predecessor. But the current situation is really particularly messy. It's not just a case of that the manager didn't do very well, maybe he lost the dressing room or whatever, results have gone badly in the case of previous situations. You have this situation with John Terry that is going to be a major issue for whoever is the new manager, temporary or not, to have to deal with quickly and effectively. And I think that, I don't know what plans the FA have in place for whether they're going to even go through processes of interviewing people or whoever, but they really have to establish with whoever they bring in, how are you going to deal with this problem? How are you going to deal with John Terry, his situation, Rio Ferdinand, other members of the squad, some of the behind-the-scenes atmosphere that has clearly been a problem and will continue to be a problem if it's not dealt with decisively.
Mm-hmm. Well, there is a simple solution there if people wish to take it. It will involve dropping both players. Just moving on from England for a second.
Simple.
If Harry does go, who will replace him, and what impact do we think this is going to have on Spurs this very weekend as they take on Newcastle at White Hart Lane?
Well, I think that some of the happiest people in the country at the moment are probably Arsenal fans who are delighted with the fact that Harry Redknapp will be, or looks to be, leaving White Hart Lane. The obvious person that sort of springs to mind would be Jose Mourinho.
To go to White Hart Lane?
To White Hart Lane, yeah. I mean, he seems to fit the bill.
Does he?
Well, yeah. I mean, he clearly wants to return to England. I mean, Spurs will be in the Champions League next season almost
Opportunity
certainly.
to have those derbies with Chelsea as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Gives him a chance. But it'd be more interesting, and far more interesting appointment would be a Brendan Rodgers or a Paul Lambert. But I doubt that will happen.
All right then.
I still think that there's a very big chance that Harry will want to continue with Spurs if the FA and his club will allow him. I mean, the friendly against Holland is almost incidental really now. I mean, virtually anyone can take that over and nobody's going to complain. But if they can find some kind of way where Redknapp gets enough time between now and the end of the season to go and see some of the players at other clubs, if he gets the odd day off or something like this. He's not at the training ground every single day. He's obviously been able to delegate over these past few weeks, and Tottenham have gone on fairly smoothly. There is no real reason why he can't continue to do his best for Tottenham and get himself as established as he can with the England squad, and then pick up the reins in May.
It's kind of odd that Capello was brought in because there seemed to be this need for a very strict disciplinarian to whip the England squad into shape. All these divas who'd sort of taken over the asylum while Steve McLaren was in charge. And now people are saying, oh, we don't need a strict disciplinarian, we need more of a Steve McLaren type. So, someone who's real matey with the boys. But you'd have to say McLaren's probably a better coach than Redknapp. And how many of his backroom staff would Redknapp bring if he took the job? Because he's got like Kevin Bond, Joe Jordan, Tim Sherwood, Les Ferdinand, his son Jamie.
Whoever sends the faxes,
whoever sends the text messages.
Yeah.
Jeremy Paxman, of all people, when they were discussing football on Newsnight last night, Jeremy Paxman was full of disdain because he said they've got rid of someone who can't use a phone and looks set to replace him with someone who can't write. Where do they get these people? So, but he likes dogs. And
Harry Redknapp.
Yeah, that's a quality I like in people. Actually, I heard a good joke yesterday. What has 4 legs and more money than Rangers?
Rosie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. And that is it for the cameras. Also, though, if you're keen on more video Football Weekly stylings, there'll be a special paper review up on Friday morning featuring the next step for Fabio and what the Italians made of it all.